Welcome. My name is Luke Smith, and I'm passionate about figuring out real estate and making it dance. I've bought and sold over 2,000 properties in the last 10 years. Somewhere along the way, I accidentally got into some properties that were high traffic retail, the kind of property that takes a McDonald's. When I got one of those, I didn't really know what to do with it. I knew it was worth more than putting a house on that property, so I started studying. I started figuring who goes here, what brand goes here, what shop goes here, what could make this property dance. I've been studying ever since. It's a great way to make properties dance if you can figure out who can use them, who's the best and highest use of those properties. Today, I'd like to talk about Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is a brand that is growing like crazy. They're opening shops all across the country. There's about 750 of them right now. I looked up using some statistics. What are their top locations? I found the top 3 locations in the country. Let's jump into them. The top one that I could find was in Sacramento, California. And I started looking at it. I started looking at the neighborhood and what's unique about this and what makes this one of their top locations. And when I'm looking at the street view, I can see a sign for Costco right behind it. It's not the same parking lot as Costco, but it's next door to it, and Costco's right there. And it's just a beautiful spot for Raising Cane's. I looked at the next one, the second best one in the stack of Raising Cane's. There's a Target. Target's right there. It's at the front corner of a Target, and they're carving out pieces of parking lots for shopping centers and putting this in the front corner, right where all the traffic's going by and where the action's happening. And it's a very similar looking site to the number 1 looking location. Number 2 is beautiful. It looks a lot like number 1. I like to see consistency like that. I like to see relationships that make me say, okay, maybe I could get a property like that someday for Raising Cane's. I think it would be beautiful to do a deal with Raising Cane's. I looked up number 3. This one's in Santee, California, and it's not next to Target or Costco. It's in between both of them. And so there we go. The relationship is starting to happen. I'm seeing the relationship in the data. I'm a data guy. I love studying data and real estate and figuring out what kind of tracks in the mud point to the next deal. And I think that kind of track is a neat thing to follow. I did some more research. I started looking at how many properties and the ones that are up for sale in the marketplace. I like looking at the ones that are for sale because we can see the lease terms and the deal terms and what's going on a lot easier than the ones that are not for sale. I found 20 properties that are for sale on the market today, and I looked at each and every one of them and studied them, and I look at a lot of different things. But for brevity of this video, I'm just going to talk about the NOI. NOI is a net operating income. It's basically the rent that these shops are paying. They also pay all the other bills like the taxes, insurance, and everything else. But what flows back to the owner of the real estate is the net operating income, what's left after the bills. So I like to look at that number and see what kind of horsepower these properties or these names have to pay rent, that maybe I could use one of these brands like this on my property in the future, right? So the more I know about them, the more I could use those tools to make my real estate dance in the future. So I looked at these, and there was 2 of them in Wisconsin that did $135,000 NOIs. And there's one in California that was like 450, and then there's one that's 455. So there's 2 of them in California that are basically 450 or 455. I thought 455 was an outlier, but there's 2 of them. The California ones seem to be the higher rent, the Midwest ones seem to be the lower rent. I see that in lots of different brands and lots of different cases. The average of the 20 of them that are up for sale right now is $244,000. I averaged them out, and that's about the average. So if we take an average $244,000, that's a beautiful number. You can take a lot of different high traffic retail sites and turn them into a $244,000 a year rent paying Raising Cane's and make money off the difference of what the thing's for sale or what you can get it for, and the value of Raising Cane's at $244,000 average rent. So that's a beautiful thing. I'm curious what's going on with this one that's the highest rent one in California, the $455,000. And so I started diving into it and looking at it. This one is in Artesia, California. There's a mall across the street. I thought that's pretty neat. And then there's Target around the corner. And then there's a Chick-fil-A across the street too. So this one is not just near Target. It's in between Chick-fil-A, Target, and the mall. And so they're doing a trifecta of all kinds of traffic and people, and where people are shopping and spending money, and maybe they'll go for lunch or dinner and check out some Raising Cane's, right? That's probably why they're paying rent. It's probably a good spot to do it. So I started diving in. What is the history of this property? I like doing this with lots of different brands, lots of different properties, and I learn and I share with a lot of people I work with. We try to figure them out. We try to digest these things and take them apart and see how they tick. That's how you can learn to do your own deals going forward. I went back and this was a furniture store, furniture clearance sale. You know, some of the pictures, I got to get rid of it. So they took this ugly clearance sales store. It looks like there used to be a sign up top. This is not the first generation of whatever's in the store. It's been used for different things over time. They turned it into Raising Cane's. It went from just going back in history, this ugly thing, to Raising Cane's, where the parking lot's taken care of. It's all brand new, new curbs, new bushes and landscaping and building, and it's a much smaller building. They got a lot more parking for a lot more people, and they reorganized it. They did a value add. They got rid of the old, they brought in the new, and I bet you the rent went up a pile. There's no way this furniture store was paying $455,000 in rent. If you know otherwise, throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, but I really doubt they were paying that. Now they've got Raising Cane's at $455,000 a year rent. I went back and looked at some more history, and it used to be Home Fabrics. That's why the funny spots were on the top of the building. It used to have the sign up there. It was Home Fabrics. That was back in 2015. They got the everything must go clearance sale, closing sale, you know. And then it went and somebody started spray painting it and picking on the building, and it was up for lease. And eventually these guys bought it. They bought it for $5.5 million. This ugly building. They didn't even get the paint right, putting it back together. They rented it out, and they still didn't even fix the paint. They didn't fix the sign. They didn't fix much of anything, but they got a furniture store in there, maybe just to pay the taxes and pay the insurance or something along the way. Eventually, they got the Raising Cane's deal, and then they bulldozed this thing, and they went for it. They turned it into Raising Cane's. Now, Raising Cane's is selling chicken, all kinds of chicken, and they're making a bunch of people happy. And I bet you these guys that now have this building up for sale for $10.5 million are excited that they landed this name and they made it happen. Other deals have much shorter timelines, and sometimes we can see brands and deals that have much shorter timelines of making these happen and how they're doing it and why, what kind of attributes allow them to do that, and see if we can replicate those for the future. This one took a good deal of time, but that's part of studying. They don't all work out in the best style. You learn from some, you learn from others, and you go from there. If you're interested in learning more about these kinds of deals, please join me in my free community. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'd love to get into more detail about these different kinds of deals and working on them and moving them forward, making them happen. If you'd like to join me, that'd be great. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Luke Smith. See you in the next one.